Welcome to the Simple Doesn't Mean Easy podcast. We are here weekly working at simplifying things in our lives one day at a time, one simple step at a time. I'm your host, Michelle Visser, and today we're talking about New Year's resolutions and what I am doing instead this year. We're going to talk about insights that you all have sent me this week. We're going to talk about what percentage of us think New Year's resolutions are effective. We're going to talk about some good insights that a lot of you have shared with me on this whole topic. So I love this episode because it's really, it's not just Michelle's thoughts. I'm bringing in thoughts of discussions I've had with a lot of you this week as well. And there's some good encouragement here. So I'm glad you're here and stick with me to the end because we're going to discover if this is a myth that the 21-day cycle of doing something will make something a permanently formed habit in our lives. And we're going to discuss why this theory even became popular to begin with. So we'll break that down at the end of today's episode. But before we dive in today, guys, we talk so much on this show about our toxic environment, toxic ingredients, and I have great news for you. I have found the most amazing small business that is truly making a difference. Go meet them at solelyrested.com/soap, SOAP. They are making all natural products with simple ingredients, plants, herbs, grass-fed tallow, and these ingredients have a profound effect on our skin. They're promoting cell growth, reducing inflammation, improving hydration, and so much more. Go to solelyrested.com/soap and snag a lot more than just soap. Check out the lip balm, the face lotion, the body butter, the natural perfumes, the all-natural diaper cream, and the soap's amazing. You will feel so pampered and you can save 15% off, not to mention getting free shipping. Go find out the details at solelyrested.com/soap. Okay, so New Year's resolutions. Do they work? What's an effective way to look at them? And what are your thoughts on this? I actually enjoyed a lot of conversations with a lot of you this week over on Instagram. I put up some stories explaining I was thinking about talking about this topic in my first episode of the new year and asking some of your thoughts and insights and just polling you on some questions. So, the first story I put up, I simply asked, do you make a New Year's resolution? And 11% of you said yes. Only 11%. I actually kind of thought it might be higher than that. But I will say, I did give a middle of the road answer because whenever I do a poll, you guys are awesome. You guys like really want to help me when I put questions out there, and you guys really have fun with it too. But it never fails. I will always get quite a few people messaging me with a really long explanation of why the answers I gave them to choose from really weren't the best. And they chose this answer, but here's the reason that it wasn't really the right answer for them. And they go into a lot of detail. And I know that sometimes some of you like stress over this because you really want to give me a truthful answer. So I try to always give like a middle of the road answer so that it's not a stressful thing for anyone. You can just quickly answer the question and move on with your day. So I did put, yes, you make a New Year's resolution. No, I put no for the third one. And then in the middle, I put kinda. So 28% of you did say kinda. I'm guessing that's the people that, I kind of get an idea of something, but I know I'm not going to stick to it. So I really don't worry about it. I'm guessing is most of those people that were answering that. And then 61% said no, outright, nope, don't try it, don't do it, never do it, nope. So I think most of us realize it's really not an effective way to form a good habit or to break a bad habit, to make a New Year's resolution. It's just not the best way to go. But interesting enough, in my next story, I found out that 86% of you, and a lot of you responded to this, 86% believed that yes, in 21 days of working towards a new habit, 21 days of always doing the new good choice that you're making, it becomes a habit. It's ingrained, and you no longer are fighting off the bad habit, but you now have formed a new good habit. 86% of you said yes, you believe that that's possible. Only 14% said no. And it's this, it's actually kind of trending right now. And I'm probably just because it's the new year. Maybe it's trending every new year. It's the first time I've really seen a lot of people talking about it. But this theory that 21 days, people are saying, I'm not making a New Year's resolution, but I'm going to spend 21 days religiously making sure I do X, Y, or Z. And then it's going to be a new habit. And this is what I'm really excited about. Well, I want to stop and say, you know what? If you really successfully, for 21 days, totally give up a bad habit, that's amazing. I'm proud of you. It's awesome. Kudos to you. Keep at it. That's great. But if you consider on day 22 that you no longer have that habit, if you consider on day 22 that you have now overcome whatever that difficulty was and you're never going back, I honestly think you're going to fight that habit in a worse way at some point down the road. In fact, next episode, make sure you join me next week because we're going to actually go deeper into that. We're going to really dive into what happens if you get kind of cocky and decide, okay, it's a new habit, done deal. And we're also going to talk about what you do if you have formed a good new habit and months or years into it, you find yourself going back to the bad habit. What do you do? Can you overcome it again, and how? And what's the best way? Lots of great tactics and insights next week. So this week we're breaking down your thoughts on this and what you guys do. You shared some really great insights that I'm excited to get into and share with you today. And I'm going to share with you what I am doing instead of a New Year's resolution. But next week, we'll dive into those other details. So definitely come back and join me next week. But okay, the next story I asked, let's see. So the third story I put up, I asked, okay, what is most successful for you as a way to break a bad habit in the new year? First of all, to make a New Year's resolution. Second of all, to have a word of the year. Or third option, to just really work hard. This I thought was interesting. 2% said resolution, even though in that first story, 11% said, yes, I always make a New Year's resolution. Only 2% said that's the best way to form a new habit for them personally. So there's a good number of people making those resolutions religiously and realizing it's not the best way, right? 23% of you said a word of the year. And I'm going to share with you in a second an insight from one of you that I really liked about that. And then 75% of you said rolling up your sleeves and working hard was really the only effective way that you knew of that you could break a bad habit. So I thought that was interesting that it's more likely all of us realize the only way to do it is the hard way. But yet, we really want to believe in the 21-day theory. And we really want to go ahead and make that resolution or kind of make a resolution because that's the easier way, right? I mean, even though we know better. So, okay, as far as the word of the year, Bev Goldberg replied to me and she had this really nice way of looking at a word of the year. She said, a word of the year gives me a point of reference in everything I do for that year. I find I will ask myself if what I'm doing or if the choice that I'm making is aligned with my word of the year. I thought that's a great idea. I would be a little nervous myself of, ooh, am I going to choose the right word that's going to work to help me fight every bad habit I want to fight this year? But I think that's a great way to look at the word of the year. It really is all about character forming and really analyzing your choices and thinking, is this lining up with my overall goal for the year? And I like that. I really like that, Bev. Also, sometimes simple is really the best way to go when it comes to all of this. Kim Camerad said, this year, I am simply trying to slow down and I'm making good use of my time. And I think that kind of comes back to what Bev was saying, that If if you analyze your choices you're making each day and you go, wait a minute, is this a good use of my time? And is it getting me in Kim's situation with her goal being to slow down? Is this choice I'm making going to help me work towards slowing down at some point today? And she goes on to say, I like to set goals for myself that, oh, here's the character building idea, goals for myself that are character building. I've kept some now for 3 years. So there you go. It's okay to set a goal. And I don't want to sound like I am totally bashing New Year's resolutions because there's a place in all of our lives for goals. We need them. So I like that, like what Kim said, that it's all about character building. And that's awesome, Kim. Good for you. 3 years. And I'm sure when she says this very specifically, she has some very specific character traits that she's worked really hard on. And rightfully so, is very proud that she has stuck with those for all these years. So I love it. So, why do we all fail at resolutions? It seemed pretty obvious with your responses that you all realize it, except for 2% of you, that we wind up failing when we make a New Year's resolution. Well, the word resolve, I actually looked it up and I looked up resolution to see if I could find anything in there that would really help me. I really didn't. But the word resolve means to settle something, to make a decision to do something. And that's as a verb. And as a noun, it's a strong determination to do something. So I don't know. I think it comes down to we're not totally in control. We have this plan. We are settled and determined. We're going to do this thing. And that's great. But we're not in control of everything in a spiritual sense, in a daily life, day by day sense, or in a very literal sense. There are so many things every minute that are out of our control. So, of course, there's going to be a lot of resolutions that we are determined to do that we simply can't. Um, so I started thinking, okay, is there something I am in control of that I absolutely can make sure I do? And for me, it comes down to my outlook and my mindset. If you've been following this show for any length of years, multiple times I have shared with you that I have been working on for decades what I call a 4-8 attitude. And it's based on Philippians 4:8. Whatever I am looking at negatively, I try to turn it around when I catch myself. I don't always catch myself being negative, but when I realize I'm being negative, I try to always look at it through the lens of what is true and lovely and right and pure in this very moment. This thing that's driving me crazy, what's good about it? So instead of being negative that the sink is clogged again, I can see the positive side that I have a sink with running water and I have a lot of dishes here to wash. And that's a good thing because I have dishes that I can use, right? You get the idea. Um, so instead of, oh, it's impossible to do this resolution that I wanted to do. I've already failed. Instead of being over consumed with that all the time, what about if I start to be consumed with the opposite side? Instead of what I can't do, I look at, um, the positives, the good things, okay, I didn't accomplish that, but look what I did do in the process. Um, So when we're consumed with all those can'ts and the negatives and the resolutions that we've broken, the problem is we start to see a lot of oxidative stress going on very physically in our bodies. And the very thing that maybe we're trying to avoid, which is being stressful or being overweight or whatever it is, suddenly we can't even avoid it because our negativity towards our failure has made our cells revert to exactly that thing we're trying to avoid. I think I'm being too vague because this covers so many things, not just, weight gain, not just not being able to sleep, so many things in our health and our everyday vitality, ability to move our muscles, all those things are impacted by this oxidative stress we're causing our cells and our body if we're in a negative mode. So, I mean, stress it's a huge driving force, right? Behind so many health problems. So instead of a New Year's resolution, what if we have a new outlook on the tough stuff? What if we see a new pretty in the middle of an ugly? Because if we can do that, then we're going to avoid the stress. And the stress leads to the imbalance of the free radicals in our body. It leads to the antioxidants being out of whack in our body. It literally damages our cells every time that we're stressed. It damages the tissues in our body. It leads to all kinds of chronic diseases. It leads to aging, gives us those wrinkles that we don't want and the gray hair that we don't want. And it definitely leads to cancer. So instead of letting ourselves build up the stress, let's focus on the positive. Think about what we have accomplished that day instead of what we failed at. Focus on what we accomplished. And think about how far we've come in the goal that we're working towards, even though maybe we failed just a minute ago. Think of all we've done leading up to this, right? I want to pause this episode and tell you to go to solelyrested.com/seeds, SEEDS. If you are going to plant any food this year, if you're looking for seeds, if you need live plants, if you need any sort of gardening items, you want to go to solelyrested.com/seeds and check out my new favorite seed company. I want you to take advantage of the special offer, the special savings that you can enjoy on any purchase that you would like to make there. These seeds are amazing. This company is super particular with what seed suppliers they work with. They have a 75-acre farm where they test every single variety of seed before they make it available. And their seed germination standards are way higher than industry standards. On top of that, you won't find GMO seeds at all from this company because they don't just talk about doing the right thing, about leading to healthy soil and good ecosystems, but they do the right things and they refuse to sell GMO seeds. Go to solelyrested.com/seeds, enjoy the savings, and check this out. solelyrested.com/SEEDS. Clat Cooking said she tries to remain focused on what good habits she wants to start instead of focusing on the negative. And instead of focusing on the negative and the pressure to stop the bad. Okay, so what she's saying is instead of all that pressure of, I don't know if I can stop this, I don't know if I can do this New Year's resolution, instead, focus on the good habits. Okay, I really want to do X, Y, or Z. And it's not going to be necessarily easy, but I can do this. I can work towards it, right? Think about the good side of it. And then she says, it's basically like pushing out the bad by bringing in more of the good shifts. So it's exactly what I'm saying. That's a 4-8 attitude. That's what we need to do. We need to see the new pretty in the middle of the ugly and have a new outlook in the middle of the tough stuff. And I think that would be much more effective, for me at least, than a New Year's resolution. Also, if we can just take small steps and not giant leaps, I actually read a couple different studies this week when I was thinking about talking about this that made it really clear that that is the best strategy. Instead of some giant overarching New Year's resolution, to just work on small steps, not the giant leap. And that's going to be the best strategy towards seeing true permanent results because the small steps can be, I'm looking at it as they can be the pretty that I focus on in the midst of the ugly, right? In the midst of me not accomplishing what I should have today to meet that New Year's resolution that I set. Instead, I can look at the small steps that I made towards it. And that can be the pretty, the good, right? The happy, the beautiful that I'm thinking about instead of my failure. Also, it helps to remind myself that honestly, in the end, I personally don't believe I'm the reason behind my successes. When I do have a great success, I firmly believe, because of my faith, I believe that I have to accredit that to God for his goodness in the abilities he's given me, the experiences that he's allowed me to have, the situations that he has allowed me to be a part of. Like, the good that I do isn't really, I mean, I know enough about my failures and my bad habits to know that it's really not my inclination to do the good and to succeed wonderfully, because I know the ugly parts of me and I know the truth. I don't know. I've shared with you guys before, I think in a recent episode, that a verse that has always meant a lot to me over the years is 2 Corinthians 4:7. And it says, "We have this treasure in jars of clay, so that it may be clear that this extraordinary power belongs to God and it doesn't come from us." And it actually helps me to remind myself when I do fail time and again, you know what? I'm a jar of clay. And anything I accomplish for good is because I'm relying on the abilities and the blessings that the Lord has given me. And it's okay that I'm a jar of clay. It's actually good, because then when I do have those huge successes, I can totally give glory to God and I can point people to the real reason behind my success. And that's ultimately, as a Christian, that's what my goal is. So the reason I'm even sharing that is I'll share with you one more response that one of you sent me. I had quite a few like this, but I'll read Susie's. Susie K81 says, "In the end, I bring it all to the Lord and I ask for his help as many times as it takes. Sometimes it's a lot for me to finally," and then she put in quotes, "get it." And then she put a laugh. So it's true. And I'm laughing there with you, Susie. But back to that 21-day thing. I know I shared with you that a lot of you think it's true. And I shared with you, I think we want to believe it's true because it seems to be the easier way. Unfortunately, it's not true. It actually, it's scientifically known that it takes more than 21 days. It can take years to really truly form a good habit. But even once you have formed a good habit that you have been repetitively doing again and again, you will occasionally, because we are human, wind up falling back into a bad habit. And sometimes that's actually totally okay. Sometimes it's okay to give yourself slack and a break. And yeah, okay, this one time I did this one thing and I'm going to get back on track now. But why do we have this myth? I mean, if you guys are like me, it was circulating a lot on my social media, and maybe you saw it a lot too around the new year. The fact is, Dr. Maxwell Maltz, Maltz, he has a theory out there. I actually meant to look up when it was published, and that I don't know. I don't have that in my notes, but it's a misinterpretation of Dr. Maltz's work. He did a lot of work on self image, and he did not find that 21 days of any task completion is going to make it truly a habit. But he did do a lot of work about a 21-day mark, and he did a lot of work about how it impacts a person's self-image if they do something repetitively that is good. But people want this to be true. We want to have a number. We want to have a very distinct goal that we can say, if I reach this day, then I'm clear. It's all good. So the idea took off. It became very popular, and you will see it in a lot of places, and people quote it as if it is fact. Unfortunately, Dr. Maltz himself would tell you it is not a fact. Truth is, you need more than 21 days. And truth is, even the best good habit can wind up being broken and no longer being a truly good habit if we allow ourselves to backslide. So it's it's a little disheartening to share that with you, because I was kind of hoping when I went to look it up that maybe I'd find it was true, because like 86% of you, I kind of wanted to believe this. But I have good news for you. Actually, I have two things of good news for you. First of all, go listen. If you want some encouragement with all of this, go listen to episode 119. Dr. Glenn Livingstone was on. He is a former CEO of a multi-million dollar consulting firm that worked mainly with the food industry. And the topic of the episode was very specifically about food and how we can overcome binge eating, and how the food industry pretty much almost makes us binge eat by different tactics they use. And he really shared great pointers into our self image and how we can work through some of the same principles I'm going to be talking about next episode, actually, towards, in the case of this episode, better eating habits. But it's a good episode that's encouraging, and I think you'll find that the habit forming techniques he shares are good for any good habit, not just eating per se. So, episode 119. And be sure to join me next week because I'm going to give you some really good hands on, useful, practical ways to solve this problem that New Year's resolutions don't really work. Tom Bartow, I believe is his name, Bartow, is a highly sought after business coach, and he has developed a model for forming a habit. And it's not based on 21 days, but it's genuine. It's been shown again and again to be effective. And I'm going to break down for you what that looks like and how you can use these principles to do something way better than a New Year's resolution. So, we'll talk about the 3 phases of how to really form a habit. We'll talk about the problems that cause us to break our habit, the problems that cause us to, do the thing we don't want to do in the midst of having accomplished so much. We'll talk about how to get back in the groove and get back on track when we do make the mistakes. And it's going to be really encouraging. We're going to, like I said, we're going to talk about something better than a New Year's resolution. So I think you will like that. Join us next week for that. And I think that's everything I had for today. So thanks for listening, friends. Remember, it is easy to forget how blessed we are to live this life, but every day we have a new chance to begin again. So enjoy as we go into this new year. Enjoy the simple, everyday efforts. I know we want to avoid the hard work, but I know it's not easy either, but it's a very good